welcome back from the break, back to the third and final part of today's program. I like to call this part the judges round, because in this part, the judges will be asking questions to our contestants based on what they've heard in the previous two segments, and also at the end, the judges will come to a decision as to who has won today's debate, and also a Best Speaker award will be given to the person out of all 6 contestants who spoke the best today, even if they're not on the winning team. So, let me just remind you of the judges. We have over here Mr. David Thompson. In the middle, we have Mrs. Kehinde Akintunde, and over there we have Mr. Mahmoud El Ghanem. So now judges, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it over to you guys, and you guys can decide who you're going to ask questions to, and who's going to actually ask it first in whatever order you'd like to go. So judges, over to you.
My first question will go to Ramisia. In your opening speech, you mentioned that there's been some benefits to society in the Netherlands. What benefits are they?
I said that it benefited them in that euthanasia in 1984 have benefited them, and recent studies show that it actually saves lives of in the people of Netherlands because of the whole framework and the regulations.
I think Miss Akintunde is asking specifically how does it benefit the society?
Okay, so we'll take a moment to deliberate.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Hi. So it actually benefits the society as keeping these people alive that actually want to die actually puts a strain on their healthcare. So if these people did pass away, then they would free up more bed space, and it would actually have more money for medicine and actually training doctors in that country as well if you just let them die.
Okay, so there's your response. Now you can ask more questions, or you can ask them if you like.
So should we just let people die yeah, so that we free up bed spaces?
But it's from a purely economic view that, if these people did want to die and there's that they can, then it can save money, and actually the money can be given to people that actually need it and actually want to get better.
So why can't we use technology to keep people alive, not against their will, but in promoting respect for the human life?
1 second, please.
No problem. It's getting quite heated over here.
If there isn't any technology, how are we actually supposed to prevent these, give them treatments and things like that?
So you're saying that the money
technology
which
kind
will
of
be saved
happens
up.
after a couple of years, and that's how technology kind of gets bigger.
So you're saying that with the money that you save from effectively taking someone's life, you can then invest that into technology.
But where's the money coming from in killing someone or allowing a doctor to take someone's life? I don't understand where the savings. Where are you making your savings?
In terms of keeping someone in hospital and giving them the medicine or the painkillers to attempt to keep them, alive, that's where a lot of the money is going. Whereas if you allow euthanasia to happen and they die, then that bed can be given to someone else who's waiting or who needs it, and therefore you've stopped giving medicine to them. So
should we be allowing everyone that needs a bed in a hospital? Should we be saying to them, once you go into hospital, you're going to die? Or should we be preserving the human life?
Yeah, you can.
Sorry. Can I just quickly repeat that? I see what you're saying, but from a purely economic point of view, so the money's already there. We're already spending money on healthcare. For people that want to die, if the option isn't there, then obviously that extra bit of money is being spent on trying to keep them alive against their will. So that money would be used in helping others. Obviously it frees up beds so other people can use the resources, and then of course it frees up other resources we can use for investing more in technology, etc.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask if we can move on to the next question, because spent quite a lot of time there. So
I'd like to ask a question of the team that are going against. We have a patient in bed, in a coma, and the life support is switched off. This happens quite commonly nowadays. Is that euthanasia?
So, a life support machine is to make the person carry on living, right? So switching it off, yes it is. That person dies. Obviously, euthanasia is when the whole theme of it is it ends with someone dying, and switching it off means a life is taken, so it is still the same thing. It might be called something else, but it still relates to euthanasia and someone dying, and simply that's just wrong.
okay.
So what I understand from what you're saying is you would class that as euthanasia. However, it's not illegal. Euthanasia is illegal. So how do you reconcile the fact that the doctors who are switching off the life support are not actually being hauled up in front of a court?
I think there is a lot of misconception about to what extent is euthanasia. So there is like voluntary and or involuntary euthanasia that can be carried out. And I think that if a person wasn't in a coma, they wouldn't be able to say, to have the consent saying, I want to die right now because of my terminal illness. So I think that would be more involuntary, which is against the person's wishes, or somebody else doing that because they think it's more right for them, even though the person who actually will be dying didn't say anything. So I do think that it is part of euthanasia, but it's more indirect.
So just so I can be absolutely sure, you are saying that you would be okay with that form of person dying?
No, I think as our team, we are completely against the whole entire idea where a person would die without consent or just wanting to die, because it's as a hospital or as a doctor, you want to save their life. They are trained for 6-7 years to try and save people's lives. I don't think that we should ever encourage a doctor saying you should die because of your terminal illness. They should always be that hope and support for that patient.
Okay, so can I ask now perhaps Mr. El Ghanem if you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a question. We've heard a lot of economic kind of arguments from the full team, which I appreciate because of my background. But I want to ask a question to both teams. Is how would you value a life of one person? With about their contribution to the economy, to the community, to the family, and that's a question open to both you guys in terms of how would you value the person's life.
So would you like them to respond first?
Yeah, I will go for the full team first. Yeah.
So you've mentioned, of course, there's the economic side of it. So first of all, from the just a person's life. So often what comes up in these debates is sanctity of life, where when you're valuing someone's life. But my question is that when a person's in so much pain, is it, sorry, 1 second. Okay, so if a person's in pain, you shouldn't be allowed to keep them in pain, because then you're not valuing their life, because being alive is hurting them. So you could, if you separate life and soul, let's say, yeah. So by keeping them alive, you're hurting their soul. If that's a good metaphor to use, if that makes sense. So from that point of view,
is living in pain truly living?
I think with what you're saying about how they contribute to the economy, to their families and things like that, I think that you shouldn't go on with euthanasia, because there are too many instances where people with terminal illnesses, with really horrible medical conditions, have contributed to the economy and to scientific research and to several other aspects of life afterwards. For example, I have 3 examples of people who are suffering very severe medical illnesses. So one of them is Lady Campbell, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard of her, but there's a reason why she's lady. She has actually been knighted. She was told that she was going to die when she was very young because of her she had type 1 spinal muscular atrophy, and she was said that she was going to die, but now she is a very good campaigner for rights of people with disabilities in the member of the House of Lords. Also, another example is Stephen Hawking. He had a very severe medical condition when he was in university studying for science, and he is now one of the best scientists in the world, and it helps everybody within England to inspire more people to become scientists. And another example is Bruce Lee. He had a very severe medical condition, and it was said that he would die. And if there was an option of euthanasia, don't you think that those people would have chosen that option? A lot of them lived in the UK, and euthanasia wasn't an option. That means that although they were suffering for that very, very, very hard time in their lives, they did do so much more for the country. And I think that if those examples can happen, then that can be applied to everyone. I think if people are encouraged to say that just because I'm struggling right now doesn't mean I'm going to be struggling in the future. I think that's the type of mindset that we want, and we're trying to encourage by not saying euthanasia is an option, because that just promotes the whole entire idea, oh, I'm suffering, I'm going to die because of this. That means my whole entire life is over. No, your whole entire life is not over, because your mindset, your whole entire attitude towards everything can completely change if you can change. And I think euthanasia discourages that, and that's why I think it shouldn't be there.
Thank you very much, Nadira. Very powerful speech over there. So judges, do you have any other questions?
I've got one to both teams regarding assistive dying. Basically, when would we start classing assistive dying as suicide? Basically, that's my question to
So
both
where's
teams.
the border between
like,
both?
yeah, where would you put a bar?
So who would you like to answer it first?
Either or.
Okay. Okay, let's go with you. It's going to be hard to live up
Basically,
to
my
that
question
speech.
was, where would you put the bar of assistive dying and suicide? When would you class it as suicide, basically, and not euthanasia or assistive dying in
To answer your question for the opposition, I think that assisted dying and suicide are almost exactly the same thing, because for assisted suicide, the person is unable to commit suicide for themselves. So I think being assisted by the doctor is one way for the person who is ill to kill themselves, because they can't kill themselves without help. I think that the line that crosses which one is suicide and which one is assisted death is by exactly how ill the patient is. So depending on how long they've been in the hospital, their actual condition and things like that.
I actually would like to say, in my opening speech, I said that euthanasia and suicide to me are both the same thing, because they're both linked to death. And actually, in most countries, euthanasia is seen as a homicide. Like, killing another person is considered murder.
Samira, can I ask you to hold the mic closer to you?
Killing another person is considered murder, even if the intention is to ease the pain, or even if the person has terminal illness, because in the end, a life is taken away.
Okay, and now would you guys like to answer that question? Where is the border, the line between assisted dying and suicide?
So, of course, you presented quite some strong arguments, but the line, personally, I see it as, you know, there's assisted dying and there's suicide. It's about how surgical, how clean it is, from society's point of view and from the person's point of view. Because when you're given, let's say you're giving a pill, and the doctor's doing it for you, you have full trust in the doctor, you have full trust in your decision, because you've made that decision over a long period of time. Because as we mentioned at the start, there's a massive process before you actually get to the euthanasia. You're questioned, you go through counselling, you take doctor's advice. And one other point to mention is that technology has come so far that the machinery that doctors use to see whether, how likely you are to survive, it's quite sensitive. So they know, sometimes they can predict, to even the day that you're going to die. Sorry. Okay. So that's the point. Sorry, one second. So suicide is killing yourself in a bad way, whereas assisted suicide is, it's actually good. It's a good way.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. The judges need to come to a decision. now. So judges, if I just give you just a really short period of time to talk to each other and decide on who your winning team is and who won the Best Speaker Award for today. And then after, I'm going to ask you to tell us the results. So you can have a conversation.
Well, I think it varied from the presentation, because at the beginning I think there were some people that were clearly ahead. But when it came to the questions,
okay, so the judges are currently coming onto a decision right now as to who has won the Best Speaker Award for today's program, and also which team has won the overall debate. I think both teams put in a fantastic performance in attempting to prove their points, but as we know, on each of these shows there can only be one team who wins. So the judges are discussing it right now, and I'm sure that they will come up with their results very shortly. Okay, so it seems that the judges have come to a decision as to who won the Best Speaker for today's program and which team won the debate. So now I'm going to ask the judges firstly to reveal who won the Best Speaker for today's program.
So first of all, we were very impressed by everyone's points today, especially someone like Yusuf, for example, your patience and composure when stating your points, and Nadir, when you came out at the end, answering my question to the point very passionately. So that was very impressive, but we decided to go for Samira because of your consistency throughout in terms of counter-arguing Ramisa's point as well with stats and facts. That was very, very impressive.
Congratulations to Samira. Well done for your performance today. I enjoyed it personally as well, and I think you're a very deserving contestant for this prize. Okay, so that's the Best Speaker done. Now it's time for the big one. I'm going to ask the judges to reveal which team won today's debate.
Today we think that this team won because they opened up the debate. The argument was very focused, very innovative, the way that they delivered their speeches. They used good examples of people living that were told that they could have people living that have terminal illnesses that everyone had given up on, and my colleague here, David, will now.
So David is now going to give the final result.
Yes, well done everybody. The winning team in this debate on euthanasia is the Freedom Fighters.
So well done to the Freedom Fighters. It looks like the Freedom Fighters have fought their way into the quarter-final. Now before I end off, I'm just going to ask the judges once more, is there anything else you'd like to say, any sort of feedback you'd like to give both teams?
I'd like to say to the team that was proposing euthanasia that perhaps they could have brought in the other subject matters which are very important in this area, things like dignity, the importance of dignity. They did well with their campaign on pain, but there are other issues, the importance of the person having the right themselves. Perhaps if they go on to future debates on this, they might mention that. And for all the participants, the importance of making it sound as if it's coming from the heart. So perhaps a little less reliance on notes, which also I think tend to make you talk faster. So with those points in mind, I hope you do very well in the next round and that you carry on with your debating as well.
Okay, so congratulations for Freedom Fighters for becoming the first team to make it into the quarterfinals, and commiserations to Team Argumentum. Personally, I thought you lot did very well also. So keep your heads up. So that's it. That's it from us here in the studio. I'd like to thank the judges and all the contestants for making their way here and, you know, really speaking really well today and really passionately proving their points. So that's it from me and everyone here in the studio on Perspective. This has been our first episode. I hope you stay tuned for the next one, and until then, it's goodbye.